My phone rolled. Oh, yeah, you have a speaker? Yeah. I was gagged. Yeah, it's all good. I'll come sit by you, man. Please. You don't smell that, do you?
Good evening. Today is Monday, August 19th, 2024. The meeting of the Public Safety Commission has been called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather, and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Kizh peoples. Item 2 on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and this evening Commissioner Hallman has agreed to lead us in the pledge. Please stand up, place your left hand on your heart.
with the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I please get a roll call, Commission Secretary?
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman, Commissioner Nickel,
Here.
Commissioner Post,
Here.
Vice Chair Harrison,
Here.
Chair Aramian.
Aye.
We have a quorum. Please note that Commissioner Freiberg is absent this meeting.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda for August 19th, 2024?
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. Yes, we do make a recommendation for the Commission to approve the agenda with a few changes in terms of moving 2 items. We'd like to request to move item 8D, LA Metro K-Line Extension Update, to the beginning of the agenda, which will take the place of item 8A. We'll also be changing item 8B to 8D to allow the sheriff and the hate crimes presentation to follow one another. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minute. Wait, are we on minutes?
Chair,
I will move to approve the agenda.
yes.
Second.
Oh, agenda. There's minutes here.
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion? So we had a
Second.
I got it. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman, Commissioner Nickel,
Aye.
Commissioner Post,
Aye.
Vice Chair Harrison,
Aye.
Chair Aramian.
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Item 6 on the agenda is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
Point of order.
My script says 6, sorry. Are we on item number 5? We already approved the minutes, correct?
No, we're at the approval of the minutes.
Okay, my apologies, I'm sorry. So we're approving the minutes. Any motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
May I get a roll call, Commission Secretary?
Did we get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman,
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel,
Aye.
Commissioner Post,
Aye.
Vice Chair Harrison,
Aye.
Chair Ramian.
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Item number 6, correct? All right, item number 6 on the agenda is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
Yes, we have 3 speakers. First speaker, we have Louise E. Smith. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, Commission. There are a couple things. I am your liaison from the Disabilities Advisory Board. Some things that continue with us is sidewalk safety. And then I wanted to make some comments about the National Night Out. We had one in my neighborhood, which was quite a success, and want to thank the block captain, Wendy Goldman, for a great job. I also want to make a mention of, we've had a lot of shake and rolling lately, and there's a high probability we're due for a large shake. And it's been 30 years since we've had one. So is the city planning on doing some more earthquake preparedness, more information out to the community as to where they go if they have to evacuate and what the procedures are. I think it would be very helpful at this time. The other issue is, on a personal note, I want to thank the fire department for once again coming to pick me up when I fell out of my wheelchair. They were right there in 10 minutes. It's nice to have one two blocks from where you live. But, you know, if we didn't have facilities like this, people like me that are both elder and disabled would not be able to live independently. And I really thank you. Great job. The other thing with the sidewalk safety, as far as our constituents in the disabled community, we recently had one of our board members slip and fall due to some water running down a sidewalk where algae had formed. He ended up having to have surgery. He is partially sighted, so he can't see. And there are so many things on our sidewalk that it makes it very difficult to really enable yourself to get down the sidewalk safely anymore. You know, we have barriers, we have scooters, we have robots, we have, occasionally we have sidewalks that are raised so that trip and falls become an issue. We are good in this city about if we notify people at City Hall, they come and they fix the sidewalks versus LA County and LA City that don't. But anyway, my thanks to the fire department and to the people that sponsored National Night Out. I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Next, we have Steve Martin. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Steve Martin, West Hollywood. Congratulations, Chair Marion, on your first meeting. And also for all your help with National Night Out. We had a great National Night Out. I just want to thank our public safety manager, Anita. You did a great job. You certainly were a huge help to me. I don't know if all the other block captains needed as much help, but you were always there every time we had questions, every time we needed a resource. You were really just on top of it, and I just want you to know how much we appreciate it. Our group, which included the chair, Adam, George Nickel, Craig Williams, Celia Archingian, and Nick Roybal also came and volunteered at our event, really came out great, and we had a great community response, but we couldn't have done it without staff, so we really appreciate it. I just want to join in what Louise Smith was saying, particularly about earthquake preparedness. Sometimes we need a little wake-up call, and I guess what happened the last week should be that wake-up call. And then lastly, it seems like next week the city's going to be considering funding for the Fountain bike lanes, which will result in Fountain being reduced to 1 lane in either direction. And it's really frustrating in that there does not appear to have been any input by this commission. There does not appear to have been any input by the sheriff's department as to how that would impact response times. There's been no outreach to the fire department as to how reducing traffic to 1 lane on Fountain is going to impact abilities for first responders. And I know the City Council wants to respond to 1 or 2 special interest groups, but this is putting public safety, the safety of the residents, the safety of the stakeholders at risk. And this is barreling down on people. People are just now becoming aware of it. But I don't even know that Athens, the trash company, is even aware of it and how they're going to make accommodations, because when Fountain becomes 1 lane and there's not always adequate left turn lanes, there's going to be chaos and gridlock on Fountain. And that chaos and gridlock is going to go down to Santa Monica Boulevard. I'm not even aware that there's been a traffic study. It's very, very frustrating to watch how staff and council have moved forward on this project in such an irresponsible manner. And I do mean irresponsible, because this is not the way we have ever done a major project in West Hollywood that would impact so many people. And we can do better, we deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And our final speaker is Nick Roybal. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Evening, commissioners. First, I want to thank Steve Martin for National Night Out and echo everything Steve said. It was a pleasure to volunteer and to immerse myself further with our neighbors. It was really a beautiful sight. So thank you, Steve Martin. I want to bring to your attention the issue of our delivery robots on our sidewalks. And this isn't to bring it to your attention to admonish them or to yell at you. No, 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 no. This is to bring to your attention to say, how do we engage in a deeper conversation about residents in our city not feeling safe with these devices being run on our sidewalks? How do we engage in that, right? Aside from residents coming, speaking at council meetings, attending here, vociferously talking to you, but unless an item is brought up with staff, nothing happens, right? They just show up, they're here, they're an impediment, they charge at you, they stall in intersections, we have to have sheriff's deputies push them out of the way. God forbid somebody die, a pregnant woman, a child. So I bring this to each of your attention because each of you, well, 4 of you are appointed, right, by council members. So I have an ask by those of you appointed by a political representative. I would like you to ask them where they stand on these delivery robots impeding our public safety and why. Second, who is funding these delivery robots and what is the contract that has been given with the city? How did they just show up? Third, why is it that Mayor Erickson is all in on this delivery technology? You know, somebody who's speaking this evening in Chicago by the name of Secretary Hillary Clinton would always say, follow the money. So I ask each of you, follow the money. Why are these robots on our sidewalks? Why? Scooters can't be on our sidewalks. Cyclists, well, now there's a carved out exemption with the county. They can at certain points, but they shouldn't be on our sidewalks. So why are the robots? Why are they actively impeding our public safety, and why are there allegedly council members that are okay with that? So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And that is all for the public comments.
Commissioner Secretary, do we have any callers on Zoom?
There are no Zoom callers.
Thank you. Item number 7 on the agenda is unfinished business. There's no unfinished business on the agenda this evening. We'll move on to item number 8, new business. Item 8A on the agenda is the LA Metro K-Line extension update. We will hear an update from the Long Range Planning Division on the LA Metro K-Line extension.
Good evening, commissioners, members of the public. My name is David Fenn. I'm a senior planner in the Long Range Planning Division here at the city. Just have a very brief update for you. I want to inform everyone that we are in the middle of Metro's public comment period on the K-Line Northern Extension. They released the draft environmental impact report on July 23rd. The public stakeholders, everyone has 45 days to comment up until September 5th. The city is encouraging residents to support the San Vicente Fairfax alternative, which would serve more of West Hollywood, more jobs, residents, businesses, destinations. with up to 3 stations in the city and 1 just outside of the city at La Cienega Beverly. Obviously, residents and stakeholders are free to support any alternative they might wish, and we're also encouraging them to share any particular issues or concerns they have unrelated to the route with Metro, because now is really the time where they're legally required to kind of look into anything that is provided to them in the form of public comment. We have a website set up with sample emails and comment forms available at weho.org/metro with all the instructions on how to submit public comments. We also have these flyers around city facilities. I put some in the back here. I have some here if anyone would like one. But yeah, please make your voice heard in Metro's process if you're interested. We have until September 5th to do so, and Metro is expected to make a final decision on the route by the end of the year, so the comments that they receive in this period will be timely and impactful to the city's future. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Do any commissioners have any comments at this time? Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you, Chair Ramian. I just have one question. When I went and made my comment supporting the route, there was an optional extension up to Hollywood Bowl. What's the deal with that? Is it, what makes it optional? How would it kick in?
So the fact that it's optional is that the kind of original project objectives was to link the K line and LAX up to the Metro, the B line, formerly known as the Red Line in Hollywood. So because the Hollywood Bowl extension is kind of not necessary for that key project intent, it's evaluated as optional. But the kind of intent with that, with Metro's perspective, is if additional funding became available beyond what they need for the rest of the route, they could at least have that already environmentally cleared and designed, so it's essentially shovel-ready. It came up in previous rounds of outreach, and there's been a lot of support for that, so I think it's definitely a possibility, and people seem to understand the value of it. But any folks that are interested in that particular part of the extension, I would encourage them to include support for that in their comments as well.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you all for your time.
Any other commissioner comments? No?
I actually had one. I'm not up to speed on it. I haven't read everything, so I apologize. It would be an underground extension?
Yes, Metro was originally considering surface or aerial options, but since they moved into the environmental report, they're exclusively considering fully underground rail at this time.
And if approved, when would the start date tentatively be?
That is a very complicated question. Under the Measure M ordinance, it would have only been, construction would have only started in the 2040s. The city is actively working with the county and Metro to try to accelerate that timeline, but it's essentially dependent on finding additional funds. So the city's proposed to possibly help with that, but we wouldn't do that unless we could bring LA County and LA City on board with that as well. So there's a lot of negotiations to happen to see if it could happen sooner than the 2040s, but the planning is happening now so that it could be moved forward if possible. But probably the earliest construction could start would be, if funding fell from the sky from Sacramento and Washington, would be in 2 years' time, because it still needs to be fully designed and engineered once they pick a final route.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Commissioners?
Great. Thank you all again.
Thank you. Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers at this time?
We have no public speakers on this item.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8B. 8B is the report from the Los Angeles County Fire Department, who will provide a report on activity for July. Good evening.
All right, good evening. Drew Smith, Assistant Fire Chief, Division 7, and I brought with me Battalion Chief Kevin Price, who's in charge of or commands the B platoon here in West Hollywood. He's been with us in West Hollywood for 5 months. Been on the job nearly 30 years, a good friend of mine, so I don't like to advertise this, but he was a pick. So I get a pick, right? So I brought my friends, so we're happy to have Kevin here with us serving West Hollywood. As far as how your Los Angeles County Fire Department is doing, your fire family is doing good. We've been busy this summer. In fact, your engine company 8 has been out serving the California need on wildland fires. They've been gone nearly a month and just returned to help that. So that doesn't mean West Hollywood goes without an engine. We have plenty of fire engines, so you've had another one there, so you didn't go without. But your West Hollywood firefighters have been out supporting that firefighting mission throughout California. So they've been gone nearly 30 days, but now they're back and glad to be reset. As far as our July report, we still are averaging approximately the same per month. For the month of July, 600 responses. As we know, as we get into Pride, and then when we end in October after Halloween, this is our peak season, as I like to say, for our law and fire partners in West Hollywood, because it's a busy time. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary with that. However, just for some basic statistics that we did have is with our fire calls, we had in response, we had a total of 4. We had treated 413 medical calls, 108 of those which relied on advanced life support, 197 is basic life support. We transported 305 patients, and a total patient seen that we made patient contact was 413. We had 18 service calls, we had 2 hazardous condition calls, and 162 good intent calls. And you know I like to talk about our good intent calls because that means people are looking, they see something, they say something, they call 911 and they let us, meaning law and fire, come and evaluate the nature of the emergency and go the right direction for whatever that emergency is. And again, it may not be emergency, but that's why you call 911 so we can evaluate that. As far as our fires, we were actually down for the amount of rubbish fires that we had in July, which is nice. So a total of 2. We had 1 cooking fire and 1 structure fire, which actually was in the 800 block on Westmont. And it was a ceiling fan that had a malfunction, and it was in a 2-story apartment. So it was a multi-strip, it looked like, that caused it to overload or short. And so those things happen. And as we've talked quite a bit about in the past 4 years that I've been here about electrical use in our homes, making sure that we have those multi-strips that are used in regular fashion. We always talk about it before we get into the holidays and Christmas and everybody gets festive and stuff. So just know that if it looks old, replace it, rely on reputable electronics, you know, and use them for their intended workload is what we like to see. Doesn't mean there was anything bad. It's just a good reminder on any time that we're using any electronics or managing our interior of our households. A couple topics that have come up that I've heard is earthquakes. And so we know that it hits the news with stuff, and it's not if, it's when, and it's how big. So I am expressing to all of us to have an internal plan. Know your house, know your work, know where those exits are, understand how to navigate your home in the dark without the lights, know potentially how to shut off your appliances, and be very proactive and prepared in case we do have an earthquake. There's plenty of resources out there. There's plenty of valid resources out there to look it up online. Los Angeles County Fire Department's website is one of those. There's a lot of great resources. And I think it's a good time for us to emphasize that, you know, we really sometimes can take it for granted because we're living our daily lives and then we have a quake, well, what do I do? So having that internal plan for your safety in your homes is what I'd like the residents to really look at, is know their exitings, know how to get out, what if the elevator's not operable, using the stairs, knowing how to get out if you have to, you know, so. And if you have single family dwellings, how to shut off your electricity, how to shut off your gas, how to shut off your water. So to take that self-preparedness time to look at that. Also have an internal family plan. Is if you have something, is there a meeting spot outside the home? So have that family synergy with your loved ones if there is one, so you have that ahead of time if there is an earthquake. Be prepared. And then from our perspective, National Night Out was a good success. I know that we had our firefighters that were out there, and they were busy throughout the night, but they had a great time, got great feedback. So everybody that interacted with them, we really appreciate that. And with that, is there any questions for me?
Do any commissioners have any questions at this time?
I do, Chair.
Commissioner Blau?
Thank you for your presentation tonight. Apologies. Along the lines of emergency preparedness, I do believe that the fire department is going to be putting on CERT training at the end of September. Is that registration still open to the community?
I don't have an answer for that. I'll have to talk to Megan Courier. She's the one that sets that schedule, but I know we have preparations for that CERT to happen. I have a hand over here.
Chief, if we can jump in. Yes, it absolutely is
Perfect.
still open. We are going to share during public comments exactly what website to go to, where you can email for more information, but it is absolutely still open to the public to register beginning in, the class starts in September 20, let me give you the date just. So the training begins September 27th, and you can register at the county's fire department's website, or email cert@fire.lacounty.gov to register.
Great. Thank you so much.
Great news.
There we go.
Please sign up. Get involved.
My second question is, it would be my understanding that for most or any municipal projects, whether they be commercial or private, and especially large infrastructure projects, that the fire department weighs in on designs. Speaking about the Fountain Avenue design item that Mr. Martin raised earlier, do you know if the fire department has been engaged with respect to the design yet?
So on any of that may compromise or impact emergency vehicles and how that is looked at with input from the fire department. It is. So there's some great concepts out there, but we don't want it to jeopardize our public safety mission either. So there's a lot of creative designs that are out there, and yes, we would like to have, and we'll have input to that. So come up with the best solution if we can.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
Yes, Chair Raymond.
Commissioner,
Great. Thank you so much. Assistant Fire Chief Drew Smith, thank you for your report. And Battalion Chief Price, good to see you again. Actually, I wanted to follow up on the plans for Fountain, reducing the vehicle traffic to one lane either way, putting in protected bike lanes. Also, there are plans to do protected bike lanes on Gardner. So you have been engaged by the city at this point as far as the plans. And so what is your feeling about this? And I ask because I know that when HLA came before voters in Los Angeles, that the, what is it? It was LA Local 112, the union there, the firemen's union, spoke out about it. They said they were against it. They said that it could impede emergency response times. How are we doing here as far as these plans and your input?
So I have not seen the plans, so I can't give any weigh-in on it and how it is. So I would have to go and look at what my perspective of it is and how those impacts. I can say with your fire agencies, us being Los Angeles County and Los Angeles City, our fire trucks are the same length and size. So I could wholeheartedly say if there are some questions to be asked or some challenges possibly need to be identified on their side, I feel strongly that we would also like to look at those same comments. So I haven't looked at them though, George, I haven't, so I can't make judgment on it, but I would love to, so we can see and make sure that we're meeting the need, because ultimately we understand that there needs to be that traffic plan. We need pedestrian use, mixed use, whether it's bike and street walkers or however you like, stroller pushers or what have you, to have those accommodations. But we really need to look at that public safety component with our fire engines and emergency apparatus. We really do.
Well, I would certainly hope so, because it is a matter of public safety. And hopefully you're being engaged and have absolute input before anything moves forward, because we've been told that this was far in the future anytime it was brought up, and now it seems to be upon us.
Okay.
And especially for Gardner, there's even a nursing home there.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, this is my neighborhood, so I know it extremely well. And I see, unfortunately, there is a need to respond to nursing homes. So first responders, fire trucks are there all the time, and when you're there, even as the street currently is without protected bike lanes, you're pretty much blocking everything.
Correct.
So I can imagine that it would make even responses to that situation more difficult.
Correct, and we know that when I field questions, let's just call them, quite a bit on when our apparatus are parked, and we've talked about it in here, when they're parked on an emergency, there's so many, how come they're blocking driveways and stuff, and we know that parking is a challenge and people need to navigate their lives. And so when we bring that equipment, it does have impact to possibly the 911 customer service delivery and or the people that are totally uninvolved with the emergency that's going on, that of course are on a time crunch to get somewhere, now they're blocked. So we know that navigation and parking is very challenging in West Hollywood, and so I understand.
Good, thank you. And because I've been on ride-alongs, and when you need to get somewhere, you take up all the streets on both sides, as you should. And people get out of the way. And if there are those protected bike lanes, where are they going to get out of the way to give you room? It is a concern. Hopefully, there's absolute input and sign-off by LA County Fire before anything moves forward.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioners? All right, Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers at this time?
Yes, we have 2 public speakers. First one is Steve Martin. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood, and I'm chair of the East Side Neighborhood Watch. And we just hear overwhelming concern by residents on the East Side about how the plans for Fountain to reduce it to 1 lane in either direction is going to impact quality of life, but more importantly, emergency response time. So I appreciate Commissioner Blau and Commissioner Nickel following up and getting the comments from the department. I don't want to sound like a lawyer, but it sounds like the fire department has not had formal input into this process. I'm not sure the commission has had formal input to this process. And I think that's a really important missing component. If on Monday night's agenda, the city's going to be considering accepting a grant which sets a construction start time of December of 2025 or January of 2026. That means this project is upon us. It's not something far off in the future like we've been told. This is here and this is now. And we're not going to have a lot of time to start changing things if we don't have a process that really takes into account the concerns of the residents and how it's going to impact how our fire department can help us, our emergency responders. And they need to see the plans. They need to be able to give formal input at a public hearing so that people can ask questions and they can have their questions satisfied. And it's also, frankly, I don't know if it's your job. I mean, there may be an engineer or somebody at the county who's, I don't want to say more qualified, because obviously you guys are out there every day, and in my mind, you're very qualified to give opinions. I've heard some opinions from some of the members of the department, but they're not formal and they're not part of the public record. They're just opinions like the rest of us. But we really need to be engaged in this process. because this is going to be a $10 million project that could be a disaster for the residents of West Hollywood. And frankly, I will be one of them urging to rip it out if it does impact us. But I mean, I don't want to move forward on something that we haven't fully thought out. I mean, this is not a time for half-baked ideas. This is not a time to be moving something forward just because it seems politically correct. This is a time to take the needs and concerns of the residents and our safety into account. So I really appreciate it. I know I sound like a nag, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Steve.
Next, we have Nick Roybal. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm going to follow Steve Martin. I sometimes forget to do this, but Nick Roybal, West Hollywood, East Side, Ogden. At the last Public Safety Commission meeting, I brought up the lack of county cameras on either of your fire stations, and that I personally know somebody who was robbed and assaulted at gunpoint in front of one of your fire stations, but because there are no cameras, that impedes the investigation. What will it take for us to put up cameras at both of your fire stations? Does it take the city of West Hollywood in partnership with Lindsay Horvath? We have $31 million in surplus. I mean, it wouldn't even take $1,000 to put up some cameras, maybe $5,000. What will it take? Because my question to you, and I brought this up at a council meeting, I brought this up at the last public safety meeting, and I will keep bringing it up until there are cameras in front of both of the fire stations. What will it take? How many more people will have to get robbed, assaulted, and God forbid murdered in front of one of these fire stations for us to put up cameras? What will it take? How many times am I going to have to come up here and say, can we get some money from the county to put up some cameras? I'll do it myself. Give me a ladder. I'm scared of heights, but I'll do it. I'm serious. So I wanted to say that. Second, back to the issue of the delivery robots, because I think this is important. Was our fire team ever brought in that? Because I really appreciate this deep concern for, are we bringing in all of our safety partners into the decisions that the city manager's office is making that negatively impact the residents of the city? For example, e.g., delivery robots on our sidewalks, e.g., a delivery robot stalling in the middle of an intersection, taking money and resources from our sheriff's deputies that should be keeping us safe, but now they're in the middle of a goddamn intersection, making sure pushing a robot out of it. Have you guys ever been in a conversation about that? So, commissioners, we have some work to do about safety in our city. And delivery robots need attention, and we need to bring all the right apparatus to that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all for the public comments.
Thank you, Commission Secretary. I have one quick question for the fire department. I know there was some activity up on Sunset today where it was shut down at La Cienega. Can you speak on that? Let us know what the incident was. I heard it was a gas leak. If you just briefly touch on that, I would appreciate it.
Funny you mention that. I have the man right here who can speak to that because he was there. He lived it. So Kevin can give you an overview on what went on today.
Okay. Good evening. Yes, there was a major gas main break at 8497 Sunset. There's a construction site that was under construction. They hit a gas line in the ground. So we responded, made sure that we isolated the area, make sure that we monitored the area for the gas levels, and make sure that everyone was safe. We issued a shelter-in-place order for all the residents and businesses around it, and we isolated. The gas company responded took them about approximately 3 hours to mitigate the gas main break, and throughout that time, the city was safe.
Thank you. Really, thank you very much for all the hard work and, you know, putting your guys' life in stake for us and the community. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to also thank the public for giving us your input. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving that right along. Item 8B on the agenda is from Block by Block Security Ambassadors, who will provide a report on activity for July.
Good evening, Commissioners. I would like to provide some statistics for July. Business contacts accounted for 3,550 contacts. Unhoused contacts were about 1,472. And we had 501 calls for service and a total of 36 safety escorts for the month of July. August has been busy for us already as we just finished Ciclavia, and we're able to also participate in National Night Out, providing support to 6 community block parties. This was my first experience with National Night Out, but it was a really great one, seeing everybody out there, block captains, and being able to provide support via our ambassadors to all of the block parties, including Plummer Park. I do want to give a special recognition to 2 of our ambassadors who were able to identify some pretty serious situations and escalate to the Sheriff's Department pretty quickly. The first one was in response for a call for service on July 2nd behind Harlow. One of our ambassadors, Alvaro Rosquero, who's been with us for about 6 years now, responded for a call for service and came upon an individual who seemed to be experiencing signs of overdose. He did attempt to reverse those with Narcan, and also gave CPR, chest compressions, but unfortunately that individual had passed. So, but I do want to commend his bravery in jumping in and acting as quickly as possible to that situation. And then secondly, during a proactive patrol, another one of our ambassadors, Curlin Haggerty, observed an individual who was actively damaging one of the windows at Mendocino Farms. Called sheriffs, stood by at a safe distance from the individual, as he was also attempting to cause damage to local vehicles in the area. Sheriffs were able to apprehend the individual, but again, 2 of our ambassadors on doing great work out there. So I just want to make sure that they got some recognition today. That's all I have to report, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Do any commissioners have any comments at this time?
I do, please, Chair.
Commissioner Blau?
Thank you for your report. Now that we're kind of, I guess, middle of August now, so we've gone through a lot of the summer, how is the bathroom project going so far, where we have the bathrooms accessible within Plummer Park and West Hollywood Park?
So that currently is only at West Hollywood Park.
Okay.
We have seen an influx in usage at West Hollywood Park since we are there 24 hours, but we do not have that program going at Plummer Park yet.
Okay, and so then at West Hollywood Park, how is that kind of looking like? What's your review of that program and that opened facility for the community?
So far, it's been great. We haven't had any reports of any major incidences that have happened there. It also allows us to be proactive in the area throughout the night from any activity. I think it also serves as a great tool for other visitors to the local clubs, that they also have access to restrooms if they need them. But it's been great so far.
Okay. Great, thank you. And then a second question I've got, I just want to confirm, and I think I've asked this before, but do the block by block ambassadors have like the WeHo app on their phone to submit like maintenance requests or code enforcement requests when they see things, and are they proactively doing that as
City
much
app?
as possible?
City app?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So we're able to also report any like discarded like large items, especially when they are attracting individuals to those items where they're creating encampments. So yes.
Okay, great. And then if I could just also underscore something that Louise had mentioned earlier in her public comments is if you can also help the ambassadors be aware for like slippery surfaces as well, which are difficult for people to, as she mentioned, traverse over in particular instances. I think that would be very helpful as well to have, you know, the eyes that we have on the ground to help look out for things like that. Obviously, the couches and large items like that, wonderful, keep it up. But it's one of the big benefits that the city gets from block by block being feet first is you know, the ability to look at these situations and submit requests so that we can triage and take care of them.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you.
I just have one question. Hi. It's for the individual at the situation at Harlow. What do you do with that individual after the fact? Is there counseling? Is there something that's a pretty dramatic thing to experience?
Absolutely. So first thing that happens is I have a conversation with our ambassadors, check in on their mental well-being. Whether they want to or not, I will send them home. Like, I'm not going to put them back out on patrol. Seeing these things can be commonplace sometimes, and you know, the last thing that we want is to become desensitized to that. So we definitely make a priority. We also create an incident report and then also escalate that internally to within the company for record keeping purposes, just to make sure that they are supported if they need it. And we also offer EAP, so if they need that, we do offer counseling services.
Any other comments at this time? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers at this time?
There are no public comments on this item.
Great, thank you.
Chair, it looks like we do have one public comment. Cesar Barrios.
Commissioners, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves, not going over these numbers on the block-by-block stats. These bike mileages are inaccurate. As a former ambassador, I know I used to ride about 10 to 20 miles per day on a bike 5 days a week. I mean, do the math. Pull out your calculator there. I mean, you would think these numbers would be higher with all the ambassadors that we have on bikes out there, whether they're on foot or bikes or with these little smart devices that you said that the ambassadors carry, or the smartphones that are not connected to a data service. They don't even have Wi-Fi. And they don't have I don't think they have the WeHo app on there. The only person that would carry the WeHo app was the team lead or the supervisor. Also, the Ramada Inn chart on there, I haven't seen an ambassador kiosk there. And also, when I drive by Fountain in Fairfax, the ambassadors are always horsing around. They're hidden back in the shrubs or behind that abandoned building. Do the math on the homeless count. It doesn't add up to the total citywide. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commission Secretary, any other public comments?
I don't see any other public comments.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, who will provide a report on activity for July.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Okay, so I'll just jump right into the data here for the month of July. West Hollywood Station personnel handled a total of 1,811 calls for service, 66 of those being emergency response. Deputies made 33 felony arrests and 64 misdemeanors. Our Part 1 crimes for the month, we had 189 incidents. Thefts accounted for the majority of that. Part 1 crime breakdown by district was 58% to the west with 110 incidents. City Center was 20% with 37. East was 22% with 41. We had 37 reported pickpocketing incidents in the Rainbow District in the month of July. And if you noticed on our chart, we did add the sorts and the Met team data that you guys asked for. So for our sorts data, we had 80 submitted reports on sorts, which is Sheriff's Online Reporting and Tracking System, I believe. It's one of those funny acronyms. And the Met data, we had 50 calls for July. And it varies from calls and proactive work that our Met team does. It might have been a call for service, or it might have been something that they saw on the street and stopped and decided to address. So those 50 all included that. In July, our station volunteers donated a total of 378.5 hours, which included duties at our public counter, patrolling, and administrative duties. Yesterday was Ciclavia, Meet the Hollywoods. It was a great event. We had a great time out there. We had numerous deputy sheriffs out there manning intersections and side streets to be sure that nobody got onto the boulevard. We didn't have any major incidents. There were some minor medical incidents throughout the event. Other than that, it was a great event. National Night Out we participated in. Deputies with our station and Captain Mulder attended several neighborhood block parties. Unfortunately, we missed participating at some of the locations due to 2 major incidents that were occurring at the city that evening. Some of our staff had to be pulled away to attend to those incidents that were going on because there were pretty big things going on. On August 6th, there was a minor traffic incident that occurred on the 7900 block of Santa Monica Boulevard. One of the parties that was involved in the incident became physical with the other person. As a result, a male fell to the ground, causing injury to his head. Unfortunately, the injury was severe, and the male passed away as a result. The suspect was arrested at the scene. Our Sheriff's Homicide Bureau detectives were dispatched to the scene and presented the case to the district attorney for filing. A charge of murder was filed, and the court case is active. An update on a case from a month ago, essentially, in June. June 14th, there was a robbery that occurred on Gardner Street. During that robbery, there was a struggle for a gun, and a round was fired. Our station detectives were able to track down the suspect. The suspect was arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon, attempted robbery. During the court's preliminary hearing, the district attorney added a count of attempted murder to the case, and the court case is currently active. That's all we have for you, and open to any questions.
Do any commissioners have any comments at this time? Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. I have a question. If you can walk me through how a situation is handled at the station. Let's say I'm out in the Rainbow District at a bar. And I feel that I become impaired, that maybe my drink has been spiked. I go to the sheriff's department to file a report. Can you walk me through the steps in which this is handled, like from the first point of contact through the end for an individual?
So if you come to the station, we'll get a deputy to come out and take a report. One of the things that we do, we take a sample of your urine, and that is processed through our lab. So our lab tests for if it was actually spiked. And then they continue. Obviously, if you feel impaired right then and there, we're going to get our partners from the fire department just to check that you're okay, and if you're okay to continue, or they'll have to transport you. But at the station, because we still don't have with the hospitals where they can draw your blood, because it's a challenge on what they can draw blood for, what they can test for. So the thing that we've established is we take a sample of your urine, we book it as like we would do it with somebody who we arrest under the influence of something. But obviously it's not for somebody who's being arrested. So then we send that to the lab, and then the lab tests it, and then it comes back whether or not it was tested positive for whatever drug that we thought that was. But primarily, our first priority is making sure that you're okay. We get our partners. Hopefully, if they transport you, it's a little bit more difficult for us to get your urine if they transport you. But our number one priority is your well-being. But we do have a system in place for our own lab, to test your urine.
Okay, because the reason I ask is because I've heard of unfortunate situations at the Sheriff's Department where individuals have felt that their concern is not properly addressed. So I just want to make sure that anyone that goes into the Sheriff's Department, whether it's an individual that's been at a bar or a restaurant or whatever, that they are being attended to with the utmost of urgency.
Absolutely. And if at any point they feel when a deputy comes out to speak to them, they don't feel that they've been serviced accordingly, they can always speak to the watch sergeant and the watch commander. We always have a watch sergeant, watch commander on duty, and they're the ones, especially if you want to file a formal complaint or whatever. And again, it's communicating. Just talk to the deputy should be taking every instance that comes in seriously, but at any point, anybody that comes into or from lobby that does not feel that that's happening, they can always ask for the watch sergeant or the watch commander.
Okay, which is great, and no disrespect, and I've heard this before, but individuals in that situation, most people who don't have an interaction with our Sheriff's Department, they're not going to know that they have this right.
Correct.
To ask for a watch commander or sergeant. So is this something that's presented to them where you do have the option to speak with someone else?
Absolutely. If somebody shows that they're dissatisfied with the service that the deputy has, the deputy should say, okay, I have a supervisor if you want to speak to my supervisor. And then they go through the chain. If it's a desk personnel, then they have a watch deputy that's a supervisor, and then we can keep going up the chain. But at any time, if you just feel the deputy or the personnel, it doesn't have to be, it could be one of the blue shirts. They're called law enforcement technicians that come out also when there's counter traffic and we don't have a volunteer. They don't like the service, they can always speak to the watch sergeant. Say, hey, I want to speak to the watch sergeant or the watch commander.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I just want to follow up on Commissioner Hallman's question. So if an individual comes to the sheriff's station and they feel that their drink has been tampered and they've been spiked with something, and they give their urine specimen, you said, correct?
Correct.
How long does it take for those test results to come back? I know most bars do have those test strips that customers can test their drinks.
Correct.
And you could have a response within seconds or minutes. But how long does it take for that urine sample to come back from the lab?
It'll be a while. It'll be at least a month, and then depending on what's going on, because we have one lab. So it unfortunately does take a little bit of time to get those results, but you have brought a perfect point. You know, we have the test strips there, and if the test strip showed that it tested positive, bring that to the station and say, hey, look, this is approved, and we book that as well. We book the test strip that says, okay, yeah, it does show that it's positive for some, you know, there's something that was poured in my drink, and that is part of our evidence.
So, playing devil's advocate, what if they didn't test their drinks and they still feel that they were spiked? Could there be test strips that could be provided to the sheriff's station where the sheriff's department could test the urine and at that moment and get an intermediate response?
No, the test strips don't work for the urine. They only work for the alcohol. So at least that's my understanding. It's for the drinks. It will not work with the urine, and it would require a lab technician to determine the positive or what we will not be. We will not be able to do that ourselves as deputies. We just book the urine and we send it to our lab because we're not trained and specialized in any of that.
I only bring that up because, they sell glucose test strips where you
Correct.
could test your urine to see what your blood sugar is and all that. So if we provided the tools to the sheriff's department, because they're out there.
Yeah,
Those tools are out there.
I know.
I know it costs money. But if we were to provide those tools, those test strips to the sheriff's department who can test the urine, and I don't know, I don't know, but don't you guys have a nurse on staff if an inmate comes in and something happens and nothing, right?
No, not at a local level patrol station. We don't have any medical staff. So anything that does happen to anybody that comes in, we called our partners from the fire department. They come in, they check the well-being, and if there's something that they need to be transferred to a local hospital, then that's what we do. And if they require more acute care, then they get transferred to our hospital, which is LCMC. They get transferred there. So unfortunately, no, because that's not part of our preview. That's what we have our labs that will check that.
Thank you. Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you, Chair Ramian. Thank you so much for your report. I just had a question. Is there any follow-up on the shooting on Gardner on, I believe it was the 20th of July, the officer-involved shooting?
It's still under investigation. And just so you know, the process of an officer-involved shooting, there's different levels. If it's what we call a hit shooting, like if we shot and we didn't hit anybody, it's a specific response. And if it's a hit shooting, then we have response from the DA, our force training people, Department of Justice, civilian oversight. All these individuals have to review the case before anything happens. So it's still under review, and that's where we're at. And it's a homicide handle, so this at a station level, we're not privy to any of, I would say, any updates unless it's a drastic update. But as of right now, it's still under review from the various agencies that I just mentioned.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to circle back because I got the clinical response that I got, but that you gave me to my question. I don't know if I got the human response, because I think sometimes when an individual goes to the sheriff's department and they feel that they have been victimized or that they are a victim, I just want to make sure that this consideration is being taken seriously. And I know we have volunteers at the front desk that do an amazing job. They volunteer their time, which is greatly appreciated. I just want to impress upon, I want to make sure that everyone that crosses that threshold and feels that they are a victim are taken seriously. So at the beginning of shifts, I assume you have meetings, updates about what's going on in the city. Are there any general reminders or anything that are given to staff to always remember this is a person, this is an individual?
Absolutely. We have briefings at the beginning of each shift. We have other agencies like the Rape Treatment Center comes in and talks to us periodically. They hold our briefings and talk to us about how the interaction with somebody should be, the type of questions, and we know some of the questions are very personal. There's also saying that we've been, I know Captain Moeller has brought it up in the past, that we want to try and have a victims advocate program within the city, that we train individuals in the city on how to be a victim's advocate. Like, let's say for you, for example, I'm a victim, and I know that I have a list of people that I can talk to that are part of this victim's advocate, that you can come with me to the station. You know the process, you know the questions that are, so when I come in and I have no idea what's expected of me, you're gonna walk me through it. So that's something that we're working on. We're trying to, figure out a way that, the best way to do it, but we want to get it with the community engagement, with community members that we'll train them what the process is. We'll train them on the type of questions. We'll take them to, the rape treatment center so they know, and then we'll walk them through the type of questions we have, the reports. So that's one other thing that we can do, I know it's a hard thing to come to the sheriff's station, especially if it's your first time, and we don't want to minimize at any point that you're not a victim. Sometimes, and it's not an excuse, we're not as soft around the edges, asking our questions, and that we need to work on. I personally, on an individual, and then just deputies individually. But by any means, a victim should never feel like they're being victimized again by the way the deputy is being talked to them. So again, if at any point they don't feel that they had the service that they requested, they can always, right then and there, speak to the sergeant or the watch commander. My information's out there. You can always send me an email, flapkin@lasd.org, and just say, hey, I was at the station and this is what happened, and I will look into it. So, anything that we can do so that we can, so the people that come into our station are comfortable speaking to us. We want to bridge that gap. So whether we have a victims advocate group that helps them out, especially on those very critical times, I think that would be something that would help, and they would feel more comfortable because they have a partner to come with them on something that is very sensitive, very traumatic for an individual.
Which sounds like an amazing idea. Where are we with this program, and is that a question for Director Rivas?
No, it's a question of, we're trying to figure out the curriculum and the training and what people can we bring to do, and then it's volunteer based. So we're trying to first how to get the curriculum and who we're going to get to come out here, and then we're going to reach out to the community. But this is something that, again, we've talked about it, but it's we need to start, moving forward besides the curriculum and who we're going to invite to do the training, because it would have to be, just looking at it, probably 4-week, maybe one day a week training, just to get the advocate, if I want to say it in quotes, up to par of the type of reporting or questions or information that we need.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Post?
Yeah, building off that one first, I think it's a great idea. I think other cities call them lived experience advisory boards. Really bringing together, I think, victims of crime within the city, I think could be very beneficial for those folks to know if they have experienced, wherever it is in the process, some piece that they don't feel was right. I think allowing them to voice that so that you all have a group of folks that you can go to and say, how can we improve ourselves is really good. And I think the city should hopefully help you all try to organize that group of members. I don't know if it would need to be a formal advisory board or commission per se, but definitely just pulling it together, more of a feedback group for you all, I think would be great as well.
As far as like the victims advocate, those are just volunteers that we want to. It wouldn't be a formal commission or a formal. It would be somebody that we would post the information on the city website of who are the city advocates. If they have, they can meet them, because not everybody would be available at all times. So it would be something that we would work on. They can look into the website. This is the victims advocate, whether it be an email, a phone number, how they get in contact with them, and that's a way of just easing into, again, when they're not comfortable speaking to us. But again, it's just open the lines of communication, and I think by doing that, we can resolve anything.
Yeah, and I think formalizing that with the help of the city would be great. I also appreciate Commissioner Nichols' comment on the officer-involved shooting, and that's what I wanted to ask about as well. As part of that investigation, once that is over, is that when usually that video footage of those incidents is normally released as well?
Yeah, they won't release anything until the conclusion of the investigation.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the scooter incidents up to 18, I think from 2, was it last time? Was that a specific focus, or is there just more attention? I know that it's been talked about a lot in public, but is it just the team focusing more on it? And
for that one, there was a specific operation for a scooter operation, and it was done at night. Although our motors and our patrol deputies look for them, but during the day, it's not a whole lot. That specific one was when they had the 21. It was a specific operation.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you. One quick follow-up, because I think this is such a good idea. Any chance that we get for the community to be involved really makes a difference. When is the next Community Police Academy? Has it been set? People have been asking me about that. And I know that you often recruit from that. Perhaps you could even try to recruit for this specific new program during it.
Correct. No, we're looking at potentially starting in November. With everything going on, we're trying to coordinate. We tried September, that didn't quite work out. October is a busy month for us, so we're looking at November, but hopefully we should finalize the dates sooner than later, and then we'll push that information out. And that would be something that, I mean, we could recruit from that, or our transgender quarterly meetings, or our even Public Safety Commission here. If somebody's interested, please send me an email, because we are formulating that. We're just trying to figure out with the training, because it's a new thing. I mean, the DA has their own advocacy programs, but those are different. And those are through, the DA stuff. But it's a new program, it's something new, so we're reinventing the wheel. We're just trying to figure out what partners we're gonna have for the training. Once we have the training and we have the people, then, I mean, I think the program would sell itself.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
Just really quick, if you don't mind, Chair.
Commissioner Blau?
Lieutenant Lapkin, just one thing that maybe we could do to address what Commissioner Hallman was talking about. I know that there's a lot of material posted in the lobby of the Sheriff's Department over there. I don't know if maybe we could post either, I don't know if there's like a trifold that we could just show about like, hey, here's how you like file a police report for like dummies and that kind of thing, or general postings about like, hey, if you don't feel satisfied or if you don't feel safe, you could talk to a sergeant or a watch commander. I know I wouldn't like think of those things either. I would probably think of
we actually do have, so when there's nobody at the front desk, there is something, if you want to do a non-criminal report, we have the information for the sorts. So that's on the front counter.
Okay.
And we also have a plaque on our front counter. If you're not satisfied with the service, and the number to internal affairs.
Got it, okay.
So, and if there's a complaint or anything that comes through, then it gets generated back to us. But if it's then and now, I mean, my suggestion is speak to the sergeant, again, communicating. Sometimes we lose ourselves in the communication, but I mean, the sergeants and the lieutenants are there, which is a watch sergeant and the watch commander, and ask to speak to them. And again, at any point, if you leave, send me an email and I will look into, any of the issues that arise.
Great, thank you.
Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers at this time?
Yes, we have two. First one is Nick Roybal. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, Commissioners. First, Commissioner Holman, thank you for bringing that forward. I actually think, and to Sergeant Duran and Lieutenant Lapkin, I'm wondering, is this, do you think, each of you, something that block by block can be incorporated into? They're already, for example, let's use the example you brought up, the Rainbow District and that incident, dealing with various sectors of our vulnerable populations, of our community. I'm wondering if there could be a way to use block by block as that resource, as a help, as a community help. I mean, I'll just say, frankly, when that incident happened with a resident in our city, I had to come forward and help them navigate that whole process. When they were robbed and assaulted in front of the fire station with no cameras. I had helped them, introduce them to Captain Mulder, introduce them to Lieutenant Lapkin, talk them through the process, introduce them to commissioners, come to the meeting. So I think you're absolutely sagacious in your seeking. And I think block by block might be a way to use the resources, Director Rivas, that we already have. And with if we're short on funds, which, we're short 1,700 deputies around LA County, so, how much more are we gonna ask our sheriffs to do? That might be a way for our own city, for our city manager Wilson to look, oh wait, we have this resources, we have our block by block ambassadors, we can use them. Sergeant Duran, Lieutenant Lapkin, can we cite the delivery robots? And that's funny, right? We all giggle. But actually, I'm getting at a deeper issue here, Director Rivas, because what happens when you send your deputies out to remove one in the middle of an intersection? Who gets that report? The person in India who's actually controlling it? So my question to each of you commissioners, what is the consequence and accountability for these delivery robots? And are there fines? If we're fining the scooter companies, Director Rivas, and this goes to the city manager's office as well with the contracts, what are we doing with the robots? When they break the law, because we have laws that everybody has to abide by, when the robot company breaks the law, how are they held to account for that? Or are they not? And does this, fall under Mayor Erickson and his kickbacks that he's getting? Yeah, that's a good question, commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Our next speaker is Louise Smith. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Louise Smith, City of West Hollywood. I have a question to the Sheriff's Department. In your July report, under your citations for scooters, I think there were 17 reports. I noticed the majority were riding on the sidewalk. And if I remember from previous reports, you had said the majority of the citations came from were out-of-town riders. Is that correct? And do you have any breakdown on that now?
Chair, so just so you know, there's not an active dialogue during public comment between staff or staff personnel. So comments should be directed towards the commission, and then if the commission wishes to ask that question from staff, then staff will respond.
Then I will pose the question to the commission, please. If we could get a breakdown on the citations of the riders of the scooters, where they are from. Are they local or are they out-of-towners? Thank you.
Thank you, Louise, and that is all for the public comments.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is a presentation from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department on hate crimes. The Sheriff's Department will provide a presentation on this item.
Chair, if the commission, I didn't know if any of the commissioners wanted to ask a question towards the sheriffs in response to the public commenter, then they could do that.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Sure.
No problem.
It's my first
time. No. Thank you, Chair. I will ask the question that Ms. Smith asked. Do we have any breakdown as far as the people who are cited for riding scooters illegally? Are they out of town? Are they local?
I would have to see if that's the information that's even gathered when they're doing the citations. So, yeah, I would have to ask our traffic division to see if it's data they collect. I'm sure there is, and that would be something that I have to see if we can, I guess we can just say out of town, not out of town. We can't give specifics. So that's something that I can look into because top of my head, I wouldn't even begin to tell you what was out of town and what was not out of town.
Of course. If you have an answer, please let me know. That'd be great.
No, absolutely.
Thank you. Moving on. Thank you, Sergeant and Lieutenant. I appreciate your time. Moving on, and the next item is a presentation of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department on hate crimes.
So I wanted to introduce the detective, I call him Manny Cortez. So he's part of our hate crimes task force that works for major crimes. But thank you for being here and providing us a quick summary. He also has hate crime pamphlets that he would like to distribute to commission. So I'll give it to the secretary so she can provide at a later time for you, unless you want to see him as he's speaking. So it's your choice. But Manny, it's on.
It's on. Hello? Okay, testing. Good evening, Commission. Thank you for having me here today. Good evening, members of the public. It's fortunate I see some familiar faces from other community engagement events. So I'm Detective Cortez. You can all call me Manny, and I am in charge of hate crimes for Los Angeles County. More specifically, I work for our Major Crimes Bureau and am the head of our Hate Crimes Task Force. So before I go into what exactly that means, I'd like to just give a brief overview of hate crimes, hate incidents, how the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department deals with them, and then also my specific role in all of that. So I'll start with first, it's going to be what is a hate crime and what is a hate incident? And I will start with hate crimes. So a hate crime is going to be a crime that is committed with a particular bias against one of 7 protected classes. Currently, the California Department of Justice, along with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, recognizes 7 protected classes that would qualify as a hate crime. And that is going to be a bias against either religion, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or any physical or mental disability. And that's going to be either directly towards someone with or under one of those protected classes, or anyone that associates with a particular group of those protected classes, or an individual, I should say. And I'll give a quick example. Let's say that we do have an individual that is not necessarily of the, let's go with a Christian faith, however, does associate with individuals or a group or even a place of worship. If there is a crime that is committed against that individual with the particular bias against that religion, then that would qualify as a hate crime within the state of California. However, there are some times where there are incidents where there is a clear bias that is seen. However, it does not rise to the level of a crime. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is unique in that we take non-criminal hate incident reports. What that means is that whenever there is a victim of any type of bias, whether it be any type of slurs or anything along those lines, even when it does not rise to a crime, there's still a report that is taken, and that does a few different things. Number one, on the professional law enforcement side, it allows us to keep track of where we're seeing spikes in particular crimes, more specifically hate crimes within the county, and it allows me to see where exactly these areas are so we can apply additional resources to those areas. But also, I like a term that was used earlier on the human side. We also are given the opportunity that although it does not rise to the level of a crime, we do offer resources for victims of hate that are available to them even when it is not a crime. And that's in collaboration with a bunch of different entities that we work with, which I'll get into in a later date, or a little later today. So that is the difference between a hate crime and a hate incident. As far as the LA County Sheriff's Department's response, so the way these get reported is if it's an emergency, if it's a 911 call and requires immediate intervention, then it'll happen just like any other call for service will go out. Well, there will be deputies that are dispatched to the scene and will handle it accordingly. Once it is recognized as a hate crime, then at that point, that investigation, that's kind of the turning point to that investigation. There are specific things that need to be done whenever there is a hate crime that is done, and that is both for document purposes, but also in the event that when we do present this case for criminal prosecution, things that need to be proven in court in order to get a hate crime to be charged. However, if it's a non-emergent incident, then what happens is either a deputy will be dispatched to the incident location, or it'll be a citizen that comes to the patrol station and a deputy will come out and will take a report there at the station. And then it'll be documented and it'll be filed and dealt with accordingly, whether it's a hate crime or a hate incident. As far as my role specifically, so I do review every single hate crime and hate incident report that is taken within Los Angeles County. I review it for accuracy. I review it to make sure that the proper charges are being filed. And I also have an open line of communication with the district attorney's office in order to, because typically what happens is whenever there is a crime that occurs, then that case, when the detective is going to file that case, it really depends on where the crime occurred, and when they go to that specific courthouse that has jurisdiction, then it's going to be whatever district attorney is going to be there at the time that will take that case. For hate crimes, we have a specific district attorney that we work with that is a very seasoned district attorney and that knows how to prosecute these cases, since it's a little more complex in order to prove some of these things in court. So we streamline that process. We do have, although I am the department-wide coordinator, we do have liaisons or patrol station coordinators at the local level. Each patrol station has one, and it's individuals that are selected at these patrol stations. One, they get additional training and on recognizing and dealing with hate crimes and hate incidents, but they also have a direct line of communication with me in the event that they do need any type of consultation, any type of help in either the investigative process or when they're preparing these cases to go to court, then I will assist accordingly. With that said, if it's going to be a major incident, let's say an incident where we have an individual that we know that is committing several acts of hate, or may even be committing acts of hate within LA County and other jurisdictions, or even outside of the state, maybe even outside of the country, well, at that point, I actually take over the investigation. I am part of our FBI National Hate Crimes Task Force, so in the event that the case does have to go for federal criminal charges, then I can facilitate that. And if it stays at the local level or at the state level, then I will also facilitate that as well as the investigative officer, or detective, I should say. I'm also in charge of training for hate crimes and hate incidents, and that is both within the Sheriff's Department to give our deputies a better understanding on how to deal with these crimes, how to deal with the victims of these crimes, and also the proper evidence that's going to be needed in order to push this case forward in court. But also I conduct training for outside of the Sheriff's Department. Any type of community events, community engagement events, nonprofit organizations. I'll go out, I'll speak, one, to educate the public, but two, also to build those lines of communication in the event that anyone does see something or maybe may have a question or doesn't know what the process is. And they may be either, they don't know that the department even takes hate incident reports and what we do with them and the importance of them and the resources that are available, so I can bridge that gap with the public directly. Also with that, I work with all of our stations within the Sheriff's Department, work with all of our other police departments within the county and outside of the county, so I know individuals that are in charge of hate crimes within each department. So then in the event that I do have an investigation, an active investigation going, and I do recognize a trend, it's a lot easier that I can go directly to the source and ask about, hey, have you seen this type of crime, or have you seen this individual, or have you seen this trend in neighboring police departments or jurisdictions? For example, for West Hollywood, I have a very good relationship with our Beverly Hills Police Department and also our Los Angeles Police Department. So in the event that any of our investigations do cross paths, I know exactly who to go to in order to facilitate that. And on that note, I also conduct training for our academies, for our sworn personnel, for our dispatchers, and also our professional staff. So for our deputies, because they're actually out responding to these calls for service. For dispatchers, because they're our front line of defense on multiple occasions when these calls first come in, so they could recognize that this may be a hate crime or a hate incident and handle that call accordingly. And also for our professional staff and our volunteers, because they are our eyes and ears. So in the event that someone does come to them in confidence or just seeking any type of consultation, they'll be able to direct them appropriately in order to get these issues handled. And that's my role in it. So with that said, I did want to pass out some of our, we do have a trifold pamphlet that we give out to all victims of hate crimes and hate incidents that has information, multiple languages, that you can scan on a QR code that gives several resources that are available to them, also emails, phone numbers for both them and in the event that they know of anyone that may have been a victim of hate crime or a hate incident so they can properly document it, get it reported. And also we have cards with a nonprofit organization, one of the many nonprofit organizations that we do work with, which is going to be our LA versus Hate, or which is in charge of our 211 system. They advocate for victims of both hate crimes and hate incidents and give additional resources, assist with court fees, mental health, and also if there is a phone call to one of these nonprofits where the individual may not have reported to law enforcement, we also have that good working relationship where they do encourage them to go to law enforcement, especially if it's going to be a crime, in order so we can handle that appropriately. And that is all.
Thank you.
Of course.
Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Just so I have a clear understanding, a hate crime, would that be when someone's physically assaulted? And an incident, is that when someone could be verbally assaulted? I just want to make sure I understand the difference between the two.
So a hate crime can be either physical violence, but it could also be threats of violence. If there is a violation of our California Penal Code or any of our local ordinances, any of our local laws that is broken because of a bias against a particular individual, then that would be qualified as a hate crime, or it would be classified as a hate crime. A hate incident would be someone exercising their freedom of speech. However, in that freedom of speech, there is clear bias that is observed or heard. For example, a very common one is going to be slurs, whether it be religious slurs, racial slurs, those type of incidents. Then when it does not reach that level of a crime, there's no assault, there's no threats against that person's life, there's no violation of the law, then it would be a non-criminal hate incident report.
So then how is a hate incident handled with law enforcement?
A hate incident report is handled by, number one, when our deputies go out, they confirm that there was no crime that was committed. It is assigned to a detective to follow up on, just to make sure in the event that there were, maybe the victim didn't hear a threat against them. However, let's say another bystander that was there did overhear, hey, he actually threatened your life. Oh, actually, now we're gonna elevate this from a hate incident to a hate crime. So, which is why they're reviewed by a detective and they're followed up on. And ultimately, I also review them as well. One, for that exact reason, to make sure that there was no crimes that possibly could have been missed, but also to identify any type of trends within a community and deal with those accordingly.
So then hate incidents, are they considered a prosecutive offense?
No, sir. A hate incident would not be a prosecutable offense. It's documented for tracking purposes and for follow-up purposes. However, it does have the potential to be upgraded to a criminal report.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Commissioner Blau.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, Detective Cortez. A quick question as well on the hate incident. So in a scenario where a hate incident identifies verifiably that that the offending party, you know, say like slur or anything that qualifies for a hate incident occurred, would that be included in the offending party's like police background check for, you know, any kind of things that pull for police background checks? Say, for instance, joining law enforcement?
No, sir, they would not. They would not come up on someone's public record. It is documented with the Sheriff's Department. However, they're not listed as a suspect in that report. So
Okay.
no, it would not come out in their history.
Okay, and so the primary motivator is just to understand metrics of when these kind of things are happening, more so than to necessarily drive to a conclusion if it's not a crime.
Yes and no, for metrics to track appropriately, but also in the event that, and I'll give an actual example. Let's say there's an individual that is seen or that is heard. Let's say there's several incidents where there's one individual that maybe has selected a particular group and on several occasions is heard or seen throwing racial, we're going to go with racial because that's our number one hate crime in Los Angeles County. Let's say racial slurs against an individual. Unfortunately, if we have multiple reports like that, history has shown that that tends to progress to actual criminal behavior or to violent behavior. So when it does, one, we try and stop it beforehand to, how can I put this, to keep an eye on the individual, whether it be within a specific location, whether it be a school, a house of worship, any of that, and we would try and do any type of target hardening to that location. But if it does progress to a crime, then we do have a hard set report or series of reports that could be used to prove or to show a history of bias and hate that will facilitate the prosecution of that crime.
Got it. Like harassment, for instance.
Exactly.
In that case. Okay, understood. Thank you. That helps a lot.
Of course.
Commissioner Nickel.
Thank you, Chair. Detective Cortez, thank you for your presentation. It's good to see you again.
Sir.
I was there in April when you did a presentation with some of your colleagues, which was really informative, and I'm so glad that Director Rivas made sure that you came before us. So how are we doing? How are we in LA County and as locally? Where are we with hate crimes? Is it up year over year? Is it steady? Where are we at?
So that is a bit of a complicated question because I will say that in the last 3 years, if you look at just our numbers, you will see that there was an increase in both hate crimes and hate incidents. However, with that said, within the last 3 years, there has also been a heavy push for training for our deputy personnel, our sworn personnel, to recognize both hate crimes and hate incidents, which is what we want. And we actually expected an increase in numbers, and we're actually happy about that because that means that our deputies are recognizing these incidents when they occur, so they're being prosecuted or handled appropriately. With that said, as far as the county is concerned, so last year we had a total of 97 hate crimes and 69 hate incidents for the entire county. So far in 2024, we have 39 hate crimes and we have a total of 49 hate incidents. For West Hollywood Station, 2023, we have 13 hate crimes that occurred in 2023, and we had 5 hate incidents. For 2024, we have 13 hate crimes to date, and we have 20 hate incidents. West Hollywood was selected as our station for one of our pilot programs, where I actually came out to the station and conducted training with our deputy personnel there, and that is in the recognizing of hate crimes, what qualifies as a hate crime, and how to deal with them accordingly, and also how to deal with the victims. That happened this year. And that was, although I do teach, and every deputy before they come out to patrol does get my class, I do get some time with them. There are some deputies that have been out in the field for quite a few years. And the purpose of that training was to provide a refresher for our more senior personnel and just our personnel in general. And I believe it's been very successful because I am the person that I am on call 24/7 if someone does have a question regarding a hate crime or hate incident, and if it qualifies, I'm the one that ultimately gets the phone call and advises either yes or no. And with the West Hollywood Station, they have been very, very good of one, recognizing, but also investigating these crimes as they're occurring. So we've had a very good working relationship. The leadership there has been incredible, and I hope to continue that going forward.
Great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you. I have one quick question, Detective Cortez. Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure to meet you. And I just want to focus in West Hollywood when it comes to these hate crimes and hate incidences. Based on the statistics you provided for 2023 and 24, it looks like it's about one hate crime a month. Out of those hate crimes, the 13 hate crimes in 2023, were they all prosecuted?
So I would have to look at that information to give you an accurate answer. So I wouldn't know at this time. However, with that said, I do keep track of those that I do handle, and of the crimes that are handled by me or by my bureau, we're sitting at about an 83% success rate for prosecution, which is looking pretty good.
That's really good. Awesome. Thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers at this time?
Yes, we have one public comment. Steve Martin, if you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood. I just want to thank you for that report. I mean, that was so thorough, so encouraging. And it's really good to see that the Sheriff's Department is putting in that kind of resources. And thank you for inviting the detective to come tonight, because this was really, really informative. The fact that there's maybe double the amount of hate crimes in West Hollywood, this probably sound a little weird, but I'm encouraged by the fact that it appears that our station is getting better at recognizing them, taking them seriously, and reporting them. So even though we're on the track to be double the number of hate crimes, it's a good thing, because it shows that people are actually being listened to, people are being respected, and the reports are being taken. And the department should be commended. As a resident, I just find that very, very reassuring. Just on kind of a different note, on hate crimes, times seem to be changing. I mean, I've been an activist a long time, and I can't remember how many demonstrations I've gone to in the last 40 plus years. But it seems today that there's a lot of violence at demonstrations which amount to hate crimes. I mean, we saw that at UCLA with the attacks on the Palestinian encampment, and then on Pico at the demonstration in front of the temple. And it's just really disconcerting. I mean, even at these Trump rallies up in Beverly Hills, where you see people coming in with sticks, clubs, boards, skateboards even, flagpoles that are actually made out of metal pipes. And it just seems on both ends of the spectrum, sort of a normalization of violence, because I don't see people who are in demonstrations who are watching people be violent saying that's a bad thing. That's what we used to do. But it seems that this sort of behavior is becoming more normalized, and it's a hate crime because you're attacking somebody because you disagree with what they're saying. And that's not what this country is all about. And I don't care whose side you're on, but I mean, a person like me who's at a demonstration, I want to be protected from some jackass. But we even saw this at an attack on a person who didn't like the transgender story hour. And people just stood there and let somebody get assaulted. And it was pretty disturbing. But that was a few years back, but it's gotten a lot worse since. And at least the excuse back then was that people were surprised. Now, I don't think people would be. But anyway, thank you for the very great report, and thank you guys for listening to me.
Thank you, Steve, and that is all for the public comments.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is items from staff. Are there any community safety updates?
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. We celebrated National Night Out a few weeks ago on August 6th. This nationwide event promotes public safety and neighborhood partnerships. Throughout the city, there was 9 wonderful events hosted that evening. Neighbors and public safety partners came together to show unity to keeping the community a safe and fun place to live. We want to extend our appreciation to the Neighborhood Watch Group captains who took the lead to organize these great events. We will be hosting a Neighborhood Watch Group meeting where we will also debrief on the event on October 9th. The Los Angeles County Fire Department will be hosting a community emergency response team, emergency response team training, also known as CERT, beginning on September 27th at the West Hollywood Aquatic Center, which we discussed during the fire department's presentation. The CERT program provides the public with basic training in safety and life-saving skills. To register for this free training, we want to share the information again. Please either visit the Los Angeles County Fire Department website or email cert@fire.lacounty.gov. After this training concludes, we will also be conducting a CERT alumni meeting to keep those who have received the training in past years connected and updated. The City of West Hollywood, in partnership with the American Red Cross, will be hosting a free CPR, first aid, and AED certified training at the West Hollywood Aquatic Center on October 5th. To register, please visit go.weho.org/enrollment or email wehoaquatics@weho.org. A big thank you to Jessica for establishing both the CERT and CPR training dates. Ciclavia Meet the Hollywoods 2024 was a well-attended event. We extend our appreciation to our public safety partners from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, Code Enforcement, and Block by Block for keeping the community safe as thousands of people enjoyed walking, running, biking, and skating throughout the city. The city is currently in full gear planning for Halloween 2024, which will take place on October 31st. We'll be working closely with our sheriffs and fire department, code enforcement, and block by block to ensure the appropriate street closures and public safety measures are in place. At recent Public Safety Commission meetings, several requests and a motion has been made for information, data, and presentations of various alternative community response organizations. We have been working closely with the city's Human Services Department on the best ways to bring those items forward to this commission. We will continue to keep you updated on these requests. This concludes the updates from the Public Safety Division. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
I don't see any public comments at this time.
Do we have any callers on Zoom?
We have no Zoom callers.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is commissioner comments. Do any commissioners have any comments at this time? Commissioner Post?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to all the first responders and folks that helped with National Night Out in Ciclavia, thank you. They were great events. I loved and enjoyed attending them, and think we should be doing more events like that to connect the community, get out in the streets, and just have neighbors and folks connect. Appreciated the update about the alternative responses. One of the public comments earlier was kind of around this transportation idea and the need to provide more feedback specifically around Fountain and Gardner, but I know there's been discussions generally around a joint transportation or commission meeting with public safety, so just wanted to see if there was any movement on that so that we could kind of bring some of those public safety, transportation, and issues together to the public. And then the other thing I wanted to check in on was, I know we had discussed in the past kind of a public engagement plan for the drone rollout, and just wanted to see if there'd been any updates as it relates to the drone program.
Excuse me. Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety for the city. So Commissioner Post, we are still working through with the city clerk's office. City clerk's office is actually taking the lead on kind of coordinating and seeing what would be the best in terms of potential kind of joint commission meeting. So as soon as we learn more, we'll definitely share that with the commission. But and we'll check in with them as well, just to kind of see where that's at. And then in terms of the public safety technology outreach plan, and so we do tentatively have it on for us on the schedule to go before the city council on the 16th of September. That'll be the only city council meeting for that month. And so we plan on presenting an overview to the city council regarding kind of the steps. And as soon as we have that, we'll be sure to circle back with the Public Safety Commission, because we'll be meeting, I believe, the Monday after that, or maybe 2 Mondays after that. But we'll be sure to make sure to have that same item on the agenda and presenting that to the commission as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that National Night Out was amazing this year. I managed to attend all 9 of them, and I don't think that people realize how much work goes into them. So block captains understand, and certainly staff understands. Thank you for all of the hard work that you did to pull it all together and make it look so effortless, which it really did in the end. And as far as CERT training, I want to encourage everyone, please sign up. It's really vital. It empowers you. It enables you to see what really happens when the worst happens and what you can do to help yourself and your neighbors. And it's good to hear that there'll be an alumni meeting afterwards. I think this is really important, that we have some sort of database that we can access and see who else in our particular neighborhood of West Hollywood also has CERT training, so that we could even on our own choose to get together and plan, especially after we've had a few shakes recently. This Thursday, August 22nd in Plummer Park is at the Community Center rooms 5 and 6 is a discussion about the plans for Gardner, for Fountain, for Willoughby, for Kings Road, as far as putting in bike lanes. I think it's really important for everyone to come and to have a say, especially after what we heard tonight, and let everyone know how we feel about this. So I think that's it. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. In regards to the statement that was made about the block-by-block report and public comments, I'm just curious, maybe at our next meeting, I just want to make sure it can be clarified so we can put that to bed, that we make sure that information is accurate, so this can be resolved. Is that possible?
Commissioner, yeah, we'll definitely work with block-by-block management and circle back with the commission as a part of an update next month.
Okay, great, thank you. And also, seconding what Commissioner Nichols said, we did CERT training together. Wendy Goldman, we did CERT training together. I'm going to do it again in September. There are a lot of acronyms to remember. I highly recommend that everyone do it. I think it is quite beneficial. God forbid we won't need it, but in the event we do, I think it's just great to be prepared.
Thank you. Commissioner Blau?
Thank you, Chair. I also want to just mention and talk really quickly on, with respect to the topic brought up today about the Fountain Avenue pedestrian and non-vehicular safety and accessibility redesign. I'm going to paraphrase one of the statements here just very slightly, but the statement that really jumped out to me is, this is not a time to rush things along, but instead to be very thoughtful and careful about how we move forward. This could have large ramifications for our community safety. This is really, I think there's some great irony and hypocrisy, I'll actually say, on these statements and sentiments expressed tonight, especially given this is exactly the commentary that I myself, part of this commission, continually provided about the public safety equipment, drones, cameras, and more. Now that the shoe, proverbially, is on the opposite foot, with community members, myself included, reporting that, I don't feel safe utilizing, crossing, existing, attempting to walk on the side of Fountain Avenue. And the city is attempting to provide a robust response after, I think, decades of identifying Fountain Avenue as an issue. Suddenly, that's insufficient. Fountain Avenue is not a freeway. This month alone, there were more traffic citations on Fountain than Sunset. Now, that may be perhaps due to some bias, but that is significant. When this came out when this came to City Council last year, and I forget the exact metric, but it was something on the order of 70 to 80% of the traffic on Fountain Avenue does not start or end in the city of West Hollywood. This is traffic pollution danger that impacts our local community by groups that are not contributing to our local community. And with respect to community outreach, there's been significant public outreach. I participated, for instance, in the survey which came out in 2021, 2022 as a resident on Fountain Avenue. There's a design steering committee in place for the Fountain Avenue project, which I am actually a participant on, which I've been participating on for the last year, to include, material selection, traffic collection with engagement from Athens and others. And the idea that this project would go through, the planning department and a professional firm without, input from sheriff and fire department is not something that would ever concern me, especially given, the robust steps and processes within this city. That's all to say. That's my point on Fountain Avenue, and that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners? I would just like to say just a few things. National Night Out was a huge success. I want to thank everyone. I would like to thank the city staff, fire, sheriffs who came to the east side, and all the other National Night Out events. It was fun. Like a couple of my colleagues said, it does take a lot of work putting that on, but seeing the faces of our community members who attend that event is priceless. So I just want to thank everyone, especially city staff. Danny, thank you so much. Thank you. It was so much fun, and I look forward to next year's National Night Out. I have signed up for the CERT training in September 27th, 28th, and 29th. I am very much looking forward to that. I do encourage all of our community members to register for that. I think it is a good piece of knowledge for all of us to have, to be good neighbors, to help and assist our neighbors who will need assistance, and God forbid something happens. I also wanted to touch on what Commissioner Hallman said in regards to the public comments to the block by block, where the bicycle mileage is. And we will, I'm sure, touch upon that as well, just to have some accountability to see where the mileages are and how that's being tracked. I also want to thank all of our public safety partners, fire department, sheriff's department. Thank you for coming out block by block. Thank you. You guys are a true asset to this community, and we do appreciate you. With that being said, if there's Vice Chair Harrison.
I've changed my mind. I also just want to say yesterday I did participate in Ciclavia. It was amazing. I think it's such a great community event. It was especially great to see how it benefited, I think, a lot of businesses. A lot of restaurants, were packed. And it was really nice. And I also just think we looked really good as a city, and that's a testament to everyone here. Just really, I think it's something, I'd like to see it all the time without cars on Santa Monica, but that's a pipe dream. But it was a fantastic event, and so thanks to everyone for putting it on. It was, I think, again, West Hollywood really shined. So thank you, appreciate it.
Chair, before we adjourn, we do have a request for one last public comment, if that is okay.
Of course.
Okay. Alan Mispiegel? If you want to go ahead and approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hey there. I want to bring up that I appreciate the topic that was discussed today and how it was presented and all of the reports that were given. I'm not good at public speaking, but I wrote down one thing that I wanted to say was that I'd like to assist in giving people a voice by bringing up a possible addition to the defining of a hate crime or a hate incident to cover the changing of topics when an encouraged citizen learns about the value of a certain topic and brings up said topic, but is ignored intentionally by the changing of topics. If that makes sense. But I appreciate you hearing me today, last minute.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commission Secretary, any other comments?
There are no other comments.
All right. With that being said, the Public Safety Commission will adjourn to our next regular meeting on Monday, September 23rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the West Hollywood Park Public Meeting Room, Chamber